Hey, Nish here, and today we've got a quick review of the HP Chromebook 11 G9 Education Edition. Now, if you don't know about ChromeOS and Chromebooks, you can check out a very short video I've made discussing the topic there. So this laptop is all black in its plastic design, and it weighs in at 1.3 kilos, which is quite a lot considering it's only an 11-inch screen on there. I think that weight comes from the hefty battery. It's got a 47 watt-hour battery. Now, being an Education Edition laptop, HP have tried to make it more durable. Now, they claim this can withstand a drop of 1.2 meters, but I'm not going to try that. So there's a pretty healthy I/O on here. There's two USB Type-C ports, either of which can be used for charging. There's two normal USB ports, a headphone microphone combination, a micro SD port. Now, there's no dedicated display port or HDMI, but you can use either of the USB-C ports for that. As far as the other specs go, we've got a pretty weak processor. It's an Intel Celeron N4500, pretty much one of the weakest processors they make. Now, usually with ChromeOS, this isn't too much of an issue because it doesn't require a lot of processing power, but I'll talk about my experience a little later on in the video. There's 4 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of the slower eMMC type storage. It's not a lot of storage, let's be honest. After ChromeOS is installed, it's quite lightweight, but it still takes up around 5-6 gig, so you're left with about 25 gig to play around with. Before I talk about the screen, please subscribe if you're liking the video so far. Helps the channel to grow and the video get out there, and I'd appreciate it a lot. So the screen on here is an 11.6-inch TN panel with some pretty abysmal viewing angles, as you can see. It's only 1366 by 768, which is just about passable in terms of density on a device this size, but honestly it doesn't feel like a very premium screen, and my experience of reading text was it seems pretty grainy. The colors are really they don't pop on this laptop, and it doesn't have very good color coverage for any professional type usage. The other thing is the bezels are quite large, so this is what contributes to the size of the laptop. It's almost as big as, say, a 13-inch laptop without having that big a screen. Now, it's not all doom and gloom with the screen. I do like that it has a matte anti-glare coating, and it also gets pretty bright. It gets to about 220 nits, and I found that in outdoor use, it works reasonably well. In terms of the physical input devices, I guess, the keyboard is pretty good. I've done a lot of typing on here and had no problems. The keys don't have a lot of travel like most laptop keyboards, but I didn't have any issues. The top row of keys has some useful functions on there, although it doesn't have play and pause for media. That would have been nice. Continuing on that education theme, HP say that the keyboard is resistant to minor spills and dust. It doesn't have any kind of official rating, so you kind of have to take that with a pinch of salt, but I think at least it would be a little bit more reliable than a typical laptop you buy. The trackpad is very just passable. It's very small, so it's not that fun to use, and I found it to be a little tricky to adjust to, so it took me a few weeks to maybe get used to using it. By the way, I disabled the pointer acceleration. I'd really recommend that because that was just messing it up. It was making it too jittery and unreliable. Closing off the physical features, we have the speakers are just pretty terrible. They don't get very loud. I'm pretty sure they get less loud than my phone speaker, and they're pretty tinny sounding, so don't expect to be listening to music or a lot of things. I guess it's an area of compromise when you have a device this cheap. Closing off, there's a camera, which is, again, very passable. You can use it for some video calls maybe, but it's not going to be used for any professional videos, that's for sure. So moving on to performance, unfortunately, this laptop was a bit of a frustrating one to use for me, and I'm not even that much of a multitasker, but once you have a few programs open, a few tabs open, it really does start struggling switching between them. Even having something simple as a video on YouTube playing on one tab while you're doing something else, it really starts to slow down. And so I think this is more to do with the processor than the 4 gigs of RAM. I think 4 gigs of RAM should be sufficient for a little bit of multitasking. That being said, if you're using it mainly just for web browsing, I did find that experience to be fine. You can use the memory saver feature in Chrome as well to save memory as you open lots of tabs. Rounding off the review, there was one positive point in the battery, so that 47 watt-hour battery is pretty hefty, and I got at least around 8 hours, maybe even 10 hours of usage of this laptop, so it's great if you're on the go a lot and you need something that will last a while. So to conclude, it's an okay device. I've been a bit harsh because it is a very budget device, but for me, what it's let down by is the screen is just not very nice to look at and use, and also the performance is just a little bit lackluster, especially when you start opening a few tabs and having some videos running. That being said, it has some positive points. The battery life, as I mentioned, it's also got a decent build to it, so if you're a very clumsy person or maybe for a child, it could be suitable. But for a general person looking for a little laptop for some basic tasks, I would look to spend a little bit more, or maybe look at the used market. So you might be able to find something that is, a similar price to this new, but maybe has better performance. Of course, whether or not ChromeOS is suitable for your needs is another question entirely. You can check out the little video I made to discuss that topic. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of this review and what you think of these really cheap ChromeOS devices. Subscribe for more to the point content, and I'll catch you in the next one.